Deterrence. Ohio prosecutor warns robbers should expect to be shot after store manager charged in killing. If this headline doesn't make sense from the state of Ohio, congratulations. None of the law enforcement in our country makes sense at the end of 2023. Let's read a little bit about this case. An Ohio County prosecutor warned thieves that they should expect to be shot when targeting retail stores after indicting a smoke shop manager charged in connection to the fatal shooting of one of the robbers during an attempted robbery in the Cincinnati area earlier this year. Now, this Hamilton County prosecutor, Melissa Powers, she's just covering her butt there talking about robbers expecting to be shot. In truth, she views the real criminal as the smoke shop employee who defended himself and his store from robbers. She filed charges against the manager of the VIP smoke shop, according to a news release from the prosecutor's office. A grand jury, imagine convening a grand jury for a man defending himself, indicted him on 8 counts, including 5 felonious assault charges, tampering with evidence, due to a felony juvenile education, which is kind of ironic because it was juveniles who robbed the store. Thacker lived in the back of the smoke shop, emerged at 1 a.m., which is not a time for customers to legally visit the smoke shop, by the way. Shot at a number of the suspects who broke through the store, throwing rocks to the windows to gain entry. He fired off multiple shots at the would-be robbers, including 16-year-old Travis Johnson. You can be sure he would not have been indicted by a grand jury had the suspects been Caucasian. Who was fatally wounded while trying to flee the scene in a stolen vehicle. This is a fairly common story. Why make a video about this on the subject of deterrence, of deterring criminal activity? Here's the most important line of the whole story and why the justice system of the state of Ohio and most of America is broken. Prosecutors said that the 3 juvenile suspects were previously charged and awaiting transfer from juvenile court. They were let out to commit more crimes by people like prosecutor Melissa Powers. Let's take a look at her bio here. Now, she has a fairly impressive resume. She obtained the confession in 1997 of a white supremacist serial killer.
Wake up, white people!
She solved a variety of murders. She left the prosecutor's office to begin her private litigation practice. Governor appointed her to serve on the Hamilton County Municipal Court. She has a lot of experience working with juveniles. Hundreds of violent felonies committed by juvenile offenders. Now, I'm not saying here that she is the sole reason that there's crime in the state of Ohio. But think back to how this would be handled in the olden days. Let's say on wagon train. How would they handle it where 4 criminals rob the wagon train and then flee the scene? They would have pursued the suspects and brought them to justice. Television would probably show you a nicer version of how they were brought to justice. But let's consider the riflemen, which also had the same issues dealing with lawless behavior in a lawless area, the Wild West. And in fact, all of our major cities, as run by the Democratic Party, have now become lawless areas of the Wild West, thanks to defund the police, thanks to cash-free bail, and all the other liberal boondoggles inflicted on our country. But does any of this have to do with justice or deterrence? Let's think of how prosecutor Melissa Powers would have been involved in a case on the riflemen. The 4 youths flee the scene after robbing the store there. The sheriff gathers together a posse, including the riflemen. They locate the 4 suspects. The 4th one gets shot and killed while trying to flee. The other 3 are told to drop their weapons and surrender. They surrender. They're brought back to face justice. Now, what does that mean? The sheriff would transport the 3 remaining surviving suspects to Kansas City, where the judge would sentence all 3 to death by hanging. You see, in the old concept of deterrence, every other criminal in the territory would see the results of this case being either death on the scene, as with the 4th suspect, and then finally death by hanging after ruling by a judge in Kansas City. In all 4 cases, all 4 suspects will be put to death. That's deterrence. This prosecutor is part of a broken system that does not deter crime, that does not block crime. In fact, she encourages crime. These suspects get released onto the streets to commit more crimes while they're facing completely worthless slap-on-the-wrist charges that will just rotate them in and out of a worthless juvenile justice system that everyone knows, including the suspects, does not deter them and does not punish them. Thank you.
The Rifleman. Starring Chuck Connors.